This one is called Arbitrary Darkness, and apparently it's poetry. Goddess, Mother, Anomaly, building towards its own ideal. Organic piece of circuitry, living titan, not cold steel. Goddess, Mother, Anomaly. Benevolent, otherworldly, infinite, and ethereal. We feel what it could grow to be. We wonder of its history. There is so much more we can reveal. Goddess, Mother, Anomaly. What could its purpose truly be? To kill, to rule, to guard, to heal. We fear what it could grow to be. What lies within her memory? She thinks, she lives, but does not feel. Goddess, Mother, Anomaly. We fear what she could grow to be. The next one is called Orientation for Magic, but I don't really remember what's in it. So I'll find out at the same time as you. Hello. Thank you all for coming. For those who do not know me, my name is Dr. Tilda David Moose. I am the director of Site 19. I am here to, pardon my colloquial tone, talk to you about magic. I'm not a very good speaker. Just letting you know that up front. If it were up to me, someone else would be standing up here. So let's start with some questions. Just raise your hand like back in school. Easiest way, don't you think? Oh, that's too many hands. All right, in front, go ahead. No, this is not an orientation for Mobile Task Force Sigma Tree. Sigma Tree is a task force that does not exist. It does not hold orientations. I think they had one orientation, ever, and that was when they were created. If you're here for Sigma 3 and you think you need orientation, your superiors haven't been doing their jobs. Next question. I thought I said don't ask me about. Okay, fine. She just asked why everyone here is from Sigma 3. First answer, it's not everyone. More 2/3 of you. I see at least a dozen high-ranking members of TAU9, the Bookworms, some Clearance 4 researchers who've just been read into this program, at least 3 of you are new directors, and some of you are spooks. Not saying who, of course. Just have fun wondering about that anyway. Very, very few people at the Foundation are allowed to know anything about magic. This is by far the largest number of people I've spoken to about this. I guess what with everything that's been happening recently, the Overseer want more people. Knowing what's going on. Yes, okay, ask your question. What is Sigma 3? In that case, I have a question too. How the hell does anyone here not know what Sigma 3 is? You should have been sent material on. Right. Great. Still in process of declassification. I see. I take it all back, I suppose. Okay, we'll start with what we call the anomalous community. Give you the lay of the land on how the world works out there in the shadows. I'll explain how the groups of interest fit into this. I'll tell you about the Wondrous Library, and yeah, I'll explain a bit about Sigma 3. In between, we'll have a break so you don't hate me too much. I assume you all already know this, but there are hundreds of you here tonight. Still, you are a fraction of the Foundation's population. We're going to keep it that way. Anything you hear from me, anything is not to be discussed with anyone who did not read into this program, on pain of death, probably. Finally, I'm going to talk about magic. Don't panic. You're not hallucinating. There has been no containment breach, and I promise there are no drugs in your coffee. I'm quite simply talking to you in the color blue. This is because I'm what they call a mage, or if you like, a type blue, or a witch. This stuff we can do, it's, well, magic. Trivial magic, but magic nonetheless. But I'm not going to talk about magic quite yet. Give me a moment and we'll get started. Right, I said I'd talk to you about Mobile Task Force Sigma 3. The bibliographers. The boring name is on purpose. Let me preface this. I'm not in Sigma 3. I only consult. I did induct a few of you myself a couple years ago, but I do not do that anymore. Yes, I see you, Agent Navarro. Stop waving. As I was saying, since I'm not in Sigma 3, this will not be a short version. Sigma 3 is the Foundation task force which deals directly with anonymous communities, on friendly terms, or at least as friendly as we can manage. This is sounds ridiculous to you. Good. Means you haven't had any leaks. Originally, Sigma 3 was the task force that took part in the failed invasion of the Wanderer's Library 3 or 4 decades back. It was the only one left mostly intact afterwards. It was reformed and repurposed by the order of O5 Command. They are not paramilitary task force, nor are they containment teams. They are the product of our superiors being very, very concerned about the idea of the Foundation might miss out on some important things, world ending things, simply because we are isolated from the anomalous world. Even with the invasion of the library, if we had the sources within the anomalous community, and if the task force, or at least their leaders and the people doing the planning for them, had been clear to know what we already knew about the library, then the operations could have gone significantly better. As it was, the library incursions involved no people who had even heard of the library before the op began. It was too highly classified. We didn't have any direct sources, people who had been there long enough to seriously know what it was like. We still don't even know what happened when we went into the library. The memories of everyone who went in were different. Even our existing records, actually, audio-visual footage, directly contradict each other. Some of the survivors don't remember even going in at all. What we know for certain is that now there are still the Foundation member left behind in the library, imprisoned beyond our reach, beyond any reach, and that this was completely preventable. But I'll get back to the library. We have always had sources of anonymous community. We have a long history cooperating with the Global Occult Coalition, which is far more part of the anomalous world than we are. We also created Mobile Task Force TAU-9, the Bookworms, to deal with the anomalies related to the library, the hands, and magic in more traditional matters. But that could only take us so far. Command decided we needed ears on the ground. Originally, Sigma 3 did not make use of any direct anomalous means, but in recent years, this was changed. There are people who are actually practicing magic in this very room. Members of Sigma 3, people who are narcissists, people who double duty at the organization like Marshall Carter and Dark, the Serpent Sands, and other anomalous organizations. And they've had results. Sigma 3 has contained a high number of actively dangerous anomalies that could not have been secured without the cooperation from being an anomalous community. There are at least a dozen SCPs which Sigma 3 contained directly that I'm aware of, and more of that at least Sigma 3 got information for. I'm not allowed to name most of these tonight because not all of you are in Sigma 3 and clear to know that, but just from the SCPs I've worked on as a project lead, Sigma 3 helped locate SCP-003, the first SCP object I was assigned to through the remote viewing operations and coordinated with outside sources from the information to Wanderer's Library. Sigma 3 also discovered and acquired SCP-472 through contact to the anonymous community. On a larger scale, Sigma 3 helped prevent a direct coordinated assault against the Foundation about a decade ago after Incident Zero. An assault that would have crushed us, and that's almost impossible given the Foundation's size and defense. I can't tell you the exact number of times Sigma 3 has literally saved the world, but I can tell you it's in the plurals. In exchange, Sigma 3 is set part of the other Foundation's task force. They do not aid the containment of any anomalous entities, not even indirectly, unless it's done by cooperating with the members of the anomalous community. This is where many people stop and raise hell. This is worse to them than even Task Force Omega 7 or Alpha 9. Those task forces use anomalous entities. But this task force actively shields certain anomalous entities from containment. Worse, sometimes Sigma 3 even makes deals which allows anomalous entities to go free. This goes against the fundamental ethos of the Foundation. They say, and maybe they're not wrong, as the thing stands now, the Foundation is not capable of simply containing every anomaly out there in the wild. Until that time, Sigma 3 is proving its worth. What good is an ethos if you don't have the world to protect? Let me get colloquial again. Sigma 3 are the people whose job it is to know if some cultists are summoning Cthulhu. Generally, their friends and their neighbors don't want the world to end, but maybe they can't really do much to stop it. But we can. They have the knowledge. We have the resources. They may not know we're jailers or members of the foundations, but Cthulhu's involved. They don't mind telling someone who knows something else, who can call one of the bigger Mobile task force to burst its head and save the world. Not that I'm saying Cthulhu really exists. If it does, then you're not clear to know about it. Just an example. I think we're due for another break. Come back in 20 and we'll talk more about the so-called anomalous community. Okay, the anomalous community. What's that mean? The anomalous community makes it all of the people in the world whose life involved the anomalous. People of all types imaginable. Patchwork of individual communities, totaling a few 100,000 worldwide. That's probably more than you guessed, but so it goes, and it's another reason we need Sigma 3. These are people who are aware and often exposed to the anomalous world. For some of them, it's part of their daily life. Many of them have access to the Wanderer's Library, and most of them have heard of it. Many are involved in the so-called anarch communities. Many are involved with the Global Occult Coalition and the Serpent's Hand. Even the Foundation itself has its roots in anomalous communities from a very long time ago, if you listen to some of the stories. No, that is not an official statement. I am only repeating rumors. A distinct minority or low-level type blue who can do little tricks and learn a few spells out of a book. Mages, witches, magicians, soothsayers, etc. People like, well, me before I defected to the Foundation. When we catch these people, we don't usually classify them as SCPs. The ones we kept are mostly classified as anonymous items. Sigma 3 handles the good number of them. In terms of GOIs, in the anonymous community, well, technically they're all part of the anonymous communities in some way, but the bigger ones are. Let me get the slideshow working. Are we cool yet? The Chaos Insurgency, the Church of the Broken God, the Fifth Church, the Global Occult Coalition, the Horizon Initiative, Mana Charitable Foundation, Marshall, Carter, and Dark Ltd, Office of the Reclamation of Islamic Artifacts, Anero Collective, Sartic Cult, the Serpent Hands, Unusual Incident Unit. As you can see, that's most of them. AWCI, the Insurgency, the Fifthist, and the Sarkitis are more fringe. Technically, so is the Church of Broken God, but the so-called devouts are far more accepted in the anonymous community than you might think, except by the original allies. Mana, Horizon, Aurea are initiatives within the anonymous community. I guess you'd call them MC and D. It's just what you think. The rich people of the anonymous communities are mostly all parts of these associations within it. And Onario, gods only know what Onario is, so I won't speculate. Then we have the two biggest ones, the Coalition and the Hand. We have a reputation too. People who don't sign on with the GOC, and even some of those call us jailers. But the Coalition are called book burners, so it could be worse. About the insurgency, people outside the Foundation don't view it the same as we do. We see them as, well, insurgents, half crazy defectors from the Foundation who want to destroy everything for who knows what reason. The anomalous communities see the insurgency as a movement, more akin to the Sarkite cults than anything else. A movement to remake the world with a strong religious overtone, despite the insurgency's professed atheism. People who want to become gods, destructive beyond the reason, and crazier even than the people who want to summon dark gods. Actually, even the people who want to summon dark gods tend to think the insurgency are going too far. They're popularly referred to as the Sower Discord, the Madman. Keep in mind, these are literal death cults, sealing them that the insurgency won't be winning any popularity contest anytime soon, which is probably why they haven't. No, I digress. That is classified. Let's talk about the Hand and the Coalition. The Global Cult Coalition is the big brother of the anonymous community. They are the cops and the executioners. They have 108 member organizations, all of them anomalous in some way, all of them shielded from us by the Coalition. The Coalition cares a lot about maintaining the so-called masquerade. They wish to preserve normalcy, just as we do. But we aren't part of the anonymous community, and they are. Generally, all respectable members of the anonymous community, or those in high society, are on board with the Coalition. They're called book burners because after the formation, after the 7 occult war around World War II, they essentially enacted an hostile takeover of the anonymous community. Either you signed in with the Coalition, with Big Brother, or you got crushed. Some elements of the coalition got with the wrong side of the library, and they were mystically barred from it, even after. Just like us. Ironically, even though they crossed the library first, they were acting on information they got from us. But that's a story for another time. Suffice to say, many coalition members are still spitting mad about losing their library access. I suspect it caused the coalition to tamp down many of their activities. Them being barred made it a lot easier for people who hated the coalition to go underground. All they needed to do was get into the library. The Serpent Hand is sort of the yin to the coalition's yang. The hand or a movement springing from the opposition of the coalition's whole Big Brother thing, and the idea of containing or suppressing the anonymous community. They're the radical activists of the anonymous community, but also ordinary people who don't take their equivalent to big government. The hand takes all types, anyone who wants to join. So there are a lot of decent folk and a lot of dead cultists too. There's heavy overlap between the hands and the fringe communities, obviously, plus movements like religious cult and occasionally full-blown religions like the Church of the Broken God and anarchist groups. Hand types tend to dislike us too, but like us better in the coalition because we try not to kill people. This is also why Sigma 3 can exist. Full disclosure, I used to be a Serpent's Hand member. I got into it through a college organization, spent a few years in it before I defected into the foundation. It's how I became a Type Blue, a magician. Not answering any questions about my incredibly interesting backstory, sorry, but I'll talk more about the magic part in a bit. Right now, I think we're due for another break. What's the Wonders Library? Most of you have probably heard of it and know it's a library and that the Serpent Hands use it and we don't. And that's about it. The Wonders Library is a library containing almost every book ever written and many that haven't been written yet and many that will never be written. We got some footage for this. Give me a second to cue it up. Alright, more than a second. Gonna keep talking. We won't be showing you the outside of the library because, as far as we know, no one has ever seen it. The library is a place outside space. Extra dimensional is the technical term, though not very descriptive. The library isn't on our world, though it is connected to it. You reach it through ways. Ways are networks of basically magical portals that take you from one place to another. They scatter around the world. The Foundation contains a number of them, mostly classified as anonymous items. A few networks are classified as SCPs. The library is a nexus of ways, the largest one on Earth. A way that connects to the library is called a door, because they attach the door to the library. Pretty simple. Using the way isn't so simple. Okay, some of them are. Each has a trick to it to make it work. Some of them you just need to be invited in. Other require some rituals. Sneeze on a shadow, recite a code word, befriend a fairy, follow a pet cat, kill a sheep, play the harmonica as you walk into the doorway. Sometimes these are called knocks. A way can be anything. You can picture a door or anything like a door. A cave, an archway, the back of a truck. Technically, every shadow or mirror could be a way, just not as useful way. Some of them are art pieces. I once used a picture of a door to enter the library, back when I still could. Some of them are corridors between stars. They're more common than you'd think, at least a few in every major city. We know the location of a few, but we know that many more exist. If someone from the Foundation or the Global Occult Coalition tries to use ways, they either don't work or the library redirects them into a dangerous place. Other planets, barren hostile lands, outer space, someone reported that one literally opened into hell. You can take that for whatever you think it's worth. More commonly, though, they just funnel us into the library archives and make us into librarians. I'll explain that in a moment. We've got footage working. The footage shows two women and one man walking through the forest. One woman wears a skimpy Godzilla costume, the other woman wears a full plate of armor, and the man is dressed in red costume covered with plastic flames. So this is a fairly typical question. Why the costumes? Oh, this particular way requires you to dress up as something you're not, so cosplaying. These are our agents, by the way, in plain clothes. I guess not plain clothes. Godzilla is Agent Jones, the Knight is Agent Liu, the last one is here today, Agent Navarro. The one in the flaming outfit. Say hi to everyone, Agent Navarro. You know you want to. The footage shows three agents walking between two trees. which have grown closely together. As they pass between the trees, they vanish into thin air. The footage cuts out. Anyway, these are three members of Sigma 3 who can access the library. Out of the entire Foundation, generally only members of Sigma 3 can access the library, and only some of them can at that. We think the library has some way of knowing who's going to use the library to target its patrons. And not just in the present, but in the future. Yeah, the library seems to have some limited ability to see the future. How? Your guess is as good as mine. This is, by the way, why Sigma 3 doesn't help the rest of the Foundation contain people in their library. If they did that, they'd simply be kicked out, and then we'd lose our in to one of the most important anomalous locations in the world. The footage resumes. It shows Agents Jones, Liu, and Navarro, now in ordinary clothing, standing in a huge hall surrounded by massive shelves of books, going up skyscraper height, too high to see the top. In the hallway are many tables and many people, well over 100 at least. As the footage plays on, it becomes obvious that not all the people in the lobbies are humans. One person passing from the camera, their face is blue and covered in spike. A 30-foot tall carpet sits down near the table, with a book in each of its three tails. This is the main hall of the library. It's even bigger than it looks. This is actually a pretty empty day. Usually there's at least a few hundred people around at any given time, and it can hold thousands comfortably. Space are deceiving in the library. For example, in the main hall, it takes half a day to reach the back wall. Yet, the space you've crossed is at least the size of an entire continent. Oh, that's just the main hall. The library has many wings. Some of them are small, only the size of a city. It just goes up from there. Some of them are actually built into forests, and some of them have their own skies. As the footage continues, Agent Navarro appears to try to converse with a robed humanoid figure. The figure has no mouth, and where its left hand should be, there's a chain connected to a glowing brass lantern. Yes, that is the librarian. Yep, that one has no mouth. This is because librarians are being punished. Usually there are only a few voluntary librarians and they look particularly strange, but we won't be seeing those in this recording. The ones with no mouths are docents. They guide people through the library and enforce the rules of the library. They are scary as hell. Just one can take out one of our paramilitary squads all on its own with ease. When they've been involved in containment breach, which has been incredibly rare, the damage has been massive, and they're not even the library's biggest defense. The other two common librarians are archivists and pages. You can see some archivists in the background. They're at the large desk on the left. They're attached to their chairs and have no legs. And you can't see it from this angle, but they have no eyes. Don't need them to read, apparently. And something like a human spider scuttles across one of the shelves above Agent Liu's head. She doesn't seem startled. That's a page. They take care of the books directly. I've never seen one touch the ground. All of these used to be people. Most of them were human. Now they're not. See, the library has rules. Don't damage books. Don't steal books. Return books on time. Don't damage the library. And don't harm those within the library. If you break the rules too egregiously, you are forcibly made into a librarian. And yes, a number of the Foundation agents are trapped in the library right now, serving out their sentence as librarians. Given the nature of their offense, if we're lucky, they'll get out in a few hundred years. Question in the back. Can't we go in and save them? No. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do for them. We don't even know which librarian they are. More questions. Alright, let's pause the footage. The footage pauses as Agent Jones appears to be flirting with a floating, regal-looking mermaid surrounded by sacks of green books floating in orbs of water. Alright, more questions. You, in the shirt. Go ahead. Can we use Sigma 3 to retrieve books from the library? No, not as such. First, the library already has its eye, metaphorically. I assume on us. If we start making plans like that, even seriously start entertaining them, we might lose access to the library. We have to rely on whatever information can be filtered through Sigma 3 agents, whatever they can film, copy down, etc. Believe me, that's better than nothing. Second, I haven't yet talked about the library cards. To check out books, to take them out of the library, you need to have a library card. The library gets a copy, and you get a copy. On that card is a magical signature that counts as your true name. For the majority of you who don't get the significance of this, We don't have time to get into the true naming business, but what it means is that anyone with that card can cast a spell on you as if you're willing. They can do nearly anything to you if they're good enough, and the library certainly is. Library cards are also conferred to the protection of the library to a certain extent. Killing a cardholder is part of why the Global Occult Coalition got kicked out of the library. They were smart enough not to kill anyone in the library directly, though they did end up killing. Sorry, I digress. The point is, the Coalition used the library to monitor dissent and executed them once they left, and you can't cheat the library. I bring that up as another reminder. This is why Sigma 3 cannot ever help the rest of the Foundation contain anomalies using the library. We can get death cults and such like because they're targeting other library members, and because the library members are helping us to do so, but even then we have to be cautious. Let's keep going. The footage resumes. Navarro, Jones, and Liu head past more massive endless shelves and walk into an atrium. There's a coffee house set up incongruously on the edge of a field of wildflowers. People perch laptops atop stacks of books. Liu gestures animatedly at the empty blue couch that looked like it was designed for something much larger than humans, and probably with a different limb arrangement. Another question. Does the library have free Wi-Fi? Okay, I know you're joking, but the answer is actually yes. The library has almost anything you can think of. People can live their entire lives in the library. They typically don't, but it's possible. A massive behemoth lumbers into view, like a cross between a sauropod dinosaur and a kraken. Its many eyes fix each small humanoid in turn as it passes, blotting out whatever strange light source emanates from the top of the library atrium. Its eyes seems to fix for an especially long time Jones, Navarro, and Liu. But then it passes onwards, vanishing through an archway that was way too small for it to fit under. And that is one of the library's bigger defenses. This one did not appear when we invaded. Worse things did. It might be some kind of librarian. It might be something else. Who knows? They call it the Elephant God, even though it does not look like an elephant. The size, I guess. The footage ends as the three Foundation agents gawk at the monster's disappearing tails. And that's all we have for today. Keep in mind, all this is only a fraction of the library, the parts that can easily be accessed from Earth. The library as what they called an archive, which includes the inner workings of the library as well as the wings of the library where humanoids like us don't visit. None of the Sigma 3 agents who can get into the library have access to the archives. The library doesn't like us enough, but we have people working for us who can go in there. A very few, mind you. The archives are not entered lightly. They have a manticore in there, and the archives are where things really went sideways when the Foundation forced its way into the library. The strange ways, the boiler rooms, the guards on the routes, I'm sorry. It's hard to talk about some aspects of this place without sounding like you're speaking fairy tale. Anyway, like I said, no one really knows what happened when the Foundation tried to take the library. Alright, I really need a break, so let's have dinner and then come back for a final discussion about magic. Welcome back. I hope you had a great dinner, or whatever you did. I'm not here to judge. So, magic. Anyone who can perform magic on a consistent, sustained basis is a type blue, colloquially called a mage, a witch, a magician, whatever. The term Type Blue, the Foundation lifted from the Global Occult Coalition. The Coalition classified humanoids with anonymous community using colors. We at the Foundation mostly use the terms green and blue. Green is a reality bender, blue is a magician. Before coming here, some of you read a transcript, a lecture given to the new Global Occult Coalition operatives about applied tomology, magic in other words. The rest of you will have access to some of those transcripts after this session. Your higher-ups want you to read these because the new GOC trainees will start off reading these, even though they're decades old and some of the information is... I would quibble with some of the presentation. The important thing is that you know half the baseline our competition has started with. I'm here to give you a viewpoint on the other half. You already know I used to be a member of the Serpent's Hand. You in the back who raised their hand when I mentioned the Coalition's transcript. For anyone who didn't catch the question, she just asked about the Hogwarts shit. She wasn't joking, no. Hogwarts is the International Center for the Studies of Unified Tomology. It's not exactly Hogwarts, more university focused exclusively on research, But yes, it is on some level a school for wizards, depending on your definition of wizard. Why haven't we contained and shut them down? Well, remember what I told you about Sigma Tree. But sure, we don't need to use Sigma Tree for that. The real answer is that the center is protected by the Global Occult Coalition, among other things. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that attacking it could trigger World War III. Something I need to keep reminding people. We're here to secure, contain, and protect. Not to blow everything into the daylight, to make sure we possess every paranatural artifact on Earth. Either way, it's not up to us. We're to leave the center alone by order of O5 Council. But yes, it exists as part of the anomalous community. No, I don't think the Foundation members can attend. The Hand and the GOC have a number of Type Blues in their ranks. With the Foundation, officially we have no Type Blues. There are no Foundation magicians. Of course, you know that not to be true. We only have a few, and almost every Type Blue in the Foundation is associated with Sigma Tree. But all that aside, you want to know how I could talk to you in blue. Well, it's not especially easy. I did a few rituals before coming here, so I could do this a few times on cue. All with the permission of the higher-ups of the Foundation. Yes, there are people higher up than me. Of course there are. I'm only a director. Point is, any and all magic that any of you will be performing will be done under the strictest supervision, unless you're out in the field and need to blend in. All of it will be done in the service of the Foundation. One of you asked me a question when you were supposed to be having dinner. He wanted to know, why can we talk about type greens, reality benders, when we can't talk about type blues? Some of you have already guessed the answer. The truth, the truth that none of you are to repeat in mixed company, certainly not to anyone else in the Foundation, is that anyone can become a type blue. Anyone can become a magician. Anyone can learn to perform magic. Many of you are going to at least attempt to learn. Most will not succeed, but it is possible for any of you to succeed. That gets a little wearying after a while, and a couple of you look ill. Sorry about that. Anyway, anyone can become a type blue, but there are some caveats. The first is something called potential. At least it was called that when I was a member of the Hand. A few people get potential through genetics, but 99.9% of the population is born with a potential of nothing. After that, whether you get potential is like whether you get cancer. There are about a million factors. Some of it is how you think, some of it is how you do or don't fit into the society, some of it is your kind of intelligence, and sometimes there is no identifiable cause. Generally, if you want to become a magician, a type blue, you first figure out what your potential is, what life's given you. If you're lucky, you'll find an established magic tradition that suits you. If you're very lucky, by which I mostly mean you're a type blue already and didn't know it, you can just go ahead and start practicing. Otherwise, you have to take a good, long, hard look at yourself. Because becoming a magician is hard. It takes a lot out of you, something different for every person. It usually requires some kind of sacrifice. Question? Go ahead. No, I don't mean the blood sacrifice necessarily. Even in the anonymous community, that is very much not sociably acceptable. When I say sacrifice, I mean physically, emotionally, spiritually. It's different for everyone. Why sacrifice? Because it's about perspective. Not just your perspective, but the perspective of other on you, the perspectives of reality. It's just about changing how the world sees you, how you see and interact with the universe. You're confused? That's understandable. Let me try to rephrase. Becoming a magician is about discovering and altering your metaphysical place in the world. This can be temporary or permanent. Temporary is the easiest. Most people can create a really minor working or a spell. Serpent Hand member often start making blue lily flower chains. Then they follow a really complicated set of instructions that, with the right material and mindset, as well as the membership to the Serpent Hand, produces a temporary potential inside of them, which they then use to work the flower change to add magic to them, anomalous effects. Those effects are different for everyone. It's impossible to try to make every type blue make a luck charm, because almost everyone who doesn't believe in luck will reliably fail. Except, oddly, actual statisticians would know what it would take to create an actual luck. Point is, it's not directly predictable what any one person can do and can't do. Let's have some demonstration. Let's have some demonstration. At this point, you've all heard me talk in blue. Let's see what someone else can do. Agent Navarro? What do you mean no one told you in advance you needed to put up a show? I'm telling you now. You up for it or not? I thought so. Alright, everyone who doesn't know, this is Agent Daniel Navarro. Agent Navarro is a former anarchist, and like me, he's a type blue. Director Moose hands Agent Navarro a slip of paper and a knife. Whenever you're ready, Agent Navarro. Agent Navarro glares at Director Moose. After a moment, Navarro picks up the knife and, with a dramatic gesture, slices open his own palm. A burst of iridescent fire blazes up from the wound. Navarro holds up the fire in his hand. It whirls and twists in the dim room. Agent Navarro was born a type blue. He discovered his talent when he tried smoking as a child and got an unusual result. He discovered the blood magic aspect of his talent through resources in the Wonders Library. Navarro conjures more bubbling bursts of iridescent fire and begins juggling. A few people cheer in the audience. Alright, that's enough, Navarro. You're getting blood everywhere. Sit back down, someone get him a bandage. Go ahead, you in the back. Ah yes, I mentioned magic tradition. I'm actually quoting Dr. Everett Mann here, who's done some interesting terminology study for us. Magic is magic. The coalition is generally taught the same basic framework of magic, stuff like ooh and the backlash and all that. The hand tends to be less consistent, go more into really esoteric stuff. There are many, many traditions and almost no universals, unless you're talking about rituals and such, which are made to work for anyone. Potential is different for every kind of magic. One old European pagan tradition may work for you, and another originating from less than 50 miles away from you may not. And people like Agent Navarro don't even have a tradition in any real sense, just some stuff that works. I mentioned Navarro was born a type blue. I was not born a type blue, I became a magician another way. I was talking about potential, right? Well, to do anything serious, you can't get by on temporary potential. It has to be permanent. And that means you become a type blue. Let's be clear here. That means you become an anomalous humanoid, even if it's in a way that's nearly invisible. Agent Navarro and I, anomalous humanoids. You might say, well, if we never perform magic again, we'd be indistinguishable from normal too, right? Well, no. Beyond our anomalous capabilities, there's a type of anomalous radiation associated with being a mage. The GOC have a scanner that can visually read this. So do we actually, though we don't usually use them in the field. The GOC color code this type of radiation blue. Ants type blue. So how do you become a type blue? You have to shift your perspective on the world. You know that center we mentioned, the GOC Protected School? They have a standing 50 million prize for anyone who can identify a reliable, universal, standardized process for becoming a type blue. No one will ever win it because you can't just make people reliably, universally shift their perspective on the world. Almost everyone in the world is capable of doing it, but almost everyone in the world is capable of cutting off their own left hand. How many people are actually going to do that? Especially if it might not even do anything for you, because little did you know you need to lose an eye? Becoming a mage isn't always as awful as that, but for some people it's worse. There are three major avenues to become a mage. Some of them are acceptable to members of Sigma 3. Most are not. I hope that which is which will be obvious. Let's start with the easy way. This is just to hang out around magic. Simple exposure. People with high potential or outright type blues wearing magical jewelry, creating minor workings, becoming a member of a magical inclined organization or a cult of some eldritch deity. A big thing is spending time in magic saturated environment, like the Wanderer's Library or Sigma 3's training facility with Sigma 3 members who are type blue. This is one principle of magic, beyond the scope of what we have time to go over today, like affect like, and like produce like, too. Do this long enough, and if you're lucky, you'll become a type blue. Many people aren't lucky. The second way, done alongside the first way, is forcibly, drastically change who you are as a person. Move countries, change religion, readdress your sexuality, see if you can find some suppressed aspect, alter your mind directly with anything from spells to amnestics. Scarification and tattoos are common. give birth to a child, raise the child. Yes, even becoming a parent changes your potential and the nature of who you are. Either way, the idea is to give something up, sacrifice. As I said, it's simplest to give up who you are. Oftentimes, it's the most appealing option, more appealing than it might sound. After all, you might end up a better person when it's all said and done, and a better person who can perform magic. For the desperate, this method includes making a bargain with a powerful anomalous entity. However, even in the anomalous community, this is rarer than you might think, because most of these entities are predatory. Many will take everything a person values and give little to nothing in return. But there are no real limits to what you can give up. These are dangerous waters. One may sacrifice body parts, loved one, pieces of their life, their future, and in some cases, that's even worked out in the magician's favor. Well, not for sacrificing loved ones. I hope. I don't need to tell you that sacrificing loved one for magic power is never worth it, not even in practical terms. The third and final way is to change the world, or wait for the world to change. Of all these avenues of gaining supernatural power, this runs the most counter to the goals of the SCP Foundation. Yes, even more than sacrificing loved ones. We want to preserve normacy. The world can certainly change on its own terms, but the Foundation doesn't want the world to be forced to change by anomalous means. The Serpent Hand does want to change the world, and to some extent, though you won't hear most of us in the Foundation admit this, they've succeeded. While we don't have an exact number, we know for a fact that there are more Type Blues today than there were 50 years ago, more than there were 10 years ago. At least some of this can be attributed to recent swelling in the ranks of the Hand. The Chaos Insurgency also understands this. This is why they wish to change the world to their liking. That's why they're called the Chaos Insurgency. It's not just a cartoon supervillain name. I mean, it is that. But it's also a statement of purpose. Sigma 3 only works with faction of the Hand who do not want the world changed. Or at least, they may want more Type Blues in the world than we do. They may want to eventually break the masquerade, and we don't want to do that, and we can't and won't help them with that. But they still want the world intact, like we do. There are a lot of dangerous things out there, some of them people, some of them far beyond people, who have immense motivations to change the world to their own benefit. They're the worst of the things out there who want to drag us all back into the dark. In most cases, they aren't even evil. They just want to rearrange the Hand to ill to make themselves the new queen. Hopefully now you understand why a little better. This is the only thing we can understand about some of those things, because they're unknowable in every other way. There's another side to all of this. The ultimate reason why all this Type Blue stuff must be kept secret, and why the Foundation can't just become a cult of magician. If every researcher or MTF agent took advantage of the power, the real significant power that magic has to offer, if everyone outside of Sigma 3 all became Type Blues like me, then our perspective on the world would change. And if that happened, we might not be able to hold back dangers to reality any longer. Everyone at the Foundation at a sufficiently high level spends their time around anomalies. We contain them, and honestly, very effectively, even with the odds strongly against us, with science and concrete. The vast majority of our containment procedure, with exceptions made only with strictly necessary, are non-anomalous in nature. You could say that we believe in science and concrete. Can you imagine what would happen if we stopped believing? If we changed the way we saw the world? If everyone at the Foundation became a mystic? It could end the containment forever, the end of the Foundation's preservation of normalcy. And then, we'd all be to the mercy of the horrible things out there, the old gods and the demons, that would ensure humanity does nothing but huddle in caves around campfires and scratch on walls forever. Your millage may vary on whether this is true, but let me be clear, your millage is only allowed to vary within the specific context of Sigma 3. I say Sigma 3 because everyone else here already knows this. No one else in the Foundation is to be exposed to this perspective, or they might not even be able to contain the threats to our reality. This is also why most members of the Foundation don't even know magic is real. Sounds small, but it starts small. Say a researcher fantasizes about casting Wingardium Leviosas. or an agent with an unfortunate romantic streak, and it ends with being unable to believe that Cthulhu can be contained behind sheets of steel and a wall of stone. But it's not my job or your job to keep Cthulhu's containment from failing. That's the job of the rest of the Foundation. Your job is to do things the rest of the Foundation can't. Your job is to find out what everyone else knows about Cthulhu that we don't. We share their perspectives, something no one else in the Foundation can risk. In this way, we preserve the world and serve the primary mission of the SCP Foundation in ways no one else can. Any final questions? Okay, that's a lot of hands. I'll just take one for now. Ah yes, you're right. Ah yes, you're right. I didn't tell you how I became a type blue. Well, I'm not going into detail. Let's just say I took the second way. I made sacrifices, major sacrifices, among other things. I deliberately did things to my own mind I absolutely do not recommend. Many of my friends did similar things. Some did worse and failed. Some did not survive the experience, and I will never get back some of the things I gave up. Such is magic, such is an enormous world. But even now, I can still do something like this. Director Moose takes out a small object from her pocket and places it on the lectern. A small carved moose figurine. She leans over and whispers to it. There's a gust of wind coming from nowhere in the indoor hall. A massive, black, cloudy figure towers over the audience, the shape of a demonic moose, with antlers stretching across the ceiling and many eyes, shining like coals from within the rolling mass. Someone screams. The moose resolves into a cartoon of a frowning face with antlers, ruining the intimidated effect, then shifts and dissipates into the smoke. Director Moose leans against the lectern, looking strained. The moose figurine is gone. After a moment, she smiles. Now you know how I became director of Site 19. A joke, just a little joke. Right. That's enough for today. I'll take questions after an hour break for anyone who sticks around. Thank you all for coming, and see you on the other side.
Unauthorized viewing detected. Activating medic amnesiac.